Okay, I just started the live meeting.
Okay. Microphone on. Is your microphone on? I don't think so.
There it is.
Okay. I think we'll go ahead and start. Is Mike? Mary, are you guys ready?
Yeah, we're open.
Okay. Okay. Oh, there's Jared coming in. Good. Okay. So we've got 6 of us. Hi. Rob, do you know what? Oh, they switched it. Good, I'm glad you're sitting.
Scott. Is he still on his whirlwind
I guess.
his world tour?
We'd like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting this evening. This is Planning Commission meeting for October 11th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded. We are happy to have all of you residents here this evening. We're going to begin the meeting with an opening prayer by Commissioner Callis and a pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Johnson.
Our Father in heaven, as we gather here this evening for this Lindon City Planning Commission meeting, we give thanks to Thee for the opportunity we have to gather and to live in this community and to consider the things which are going to be presented this evening. We pray that as we do so, we will do so with a tentativeness and to make decisions that will be in the best interest of our citizens and the community. We're thankful for this beautiful area we live in, for the many blessings we are given, and for all of the things we receive as we live here. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please rise. Repeat the pledge with me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you.
We'll begin our meeting this evening with an audible roll call of the commissioners. Sharon Call, here. Mike Marchbanks.
Here.
Jared Showers.
Here.
Rob Tellis.
Here.
Stephen Johnson.
Here.
Renee Tribe. Here. And Scott Thompson is absent this evening. Okay, and the next item on our agenda are approval of the minutes. This is for September 27th, 2022. And I had a chance to review those minutes. I didn't see any corrections that needed to be made. Anyone else?
No.
Okay, Steve, you didn't see, okay. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on our agenda, this is a time for public comment. This would be for any items that are not already on the agenda for this evening. Is anyone here for that purpose? Okay. We'll go on to item number 4 then. This is a conditional use permit with Hurts So Good Bodywork and Massage. And our applicant is Bridget Carpenter. The presenting staff is Mary Barnes. And this is at 515 West, 515 North. Okay? And Bridget, if you'd like to come up, that would be great.
All right, thank you so much. You can go ahead and have a seat if you'd like.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to stand right away. All right, so this is a conditional use permit. The Planning Commission is the final land use authority on this matter. Bridget Carpenter is proposing to open a massage therapy business within the Vero Health Wellness and Chiropractic Clinic at 515 West, 550 North, Suite B. I'm in Lindon. This massage therapy business is called Hurts So Good Bodywork and Massage, and Bridget will be the only employee at Hurts So Good. As you know, Title 5.30 governing massage establishments was adopted earlier this year. This new chapter was intended to ensure that any massage establishment that locates within the city will be thoroughly vetted due to some experiences in the past that we've had with massage establishments. Bridget Carpenter has met almost all of the requirements in the code. The only two that she hasn't met are the ones that she's currently working towards, namely the conditional use permit and the current business license. She has turned in her state massage license, her Utah driver's license, proof of U.S. citizenship, a background check, and she's, as you've seen, attached to the staff report is a business description, including the statements that are required. And as you've probably read in the business description, Bridget has had an active Utah massage therapy license since 2008 and has previously worked in the American Fork and South Jordan Massage NB, as well as a home occupation massage license in Pleasant Grove. And now she is relocating to the Lindon location. One thing that I wanted to bring up was that in the most recent massage therapy conditional use permit that we went through, Sin City, just a few weeks, months ago, the commission added a condition to the motion saying there will be a 12-month review by the Planning Commission that these conditions are being followed. I didn't add this condition into this motion, but you're welcome to add it if you would like. I looked at that previous meeting, the minutes and the YouTube video, and the reasons given for this condition was to ensure that the ordinance is still being followed after 12 months, to meet with the applicant again, because at that time, that previous applicant was participating over Zoom, and to see kind of where the business is at, to kind of cover all our bases. So it is up to you to add that condition again with Bridget for a 12-month review. But I'll leave it up to you to talk with Bridget, or if you have any questions. I'm good.
Wasn't that because, with regard to the previous applicant for the massage, wasn't that because she was doing it out of her home?
No, the previous applicant was doing it above a chiropractic office.
She was doing it above, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think it might have also been something to do with the fact that the previous applicant was coming from Nevada. She hadn't practiced in
Right, she was
Utah.
coming from out of state.
Uh-huh.
Have you already gotten the business license?
She needs a conditional use permit.
It's first, then the business license?
That's what I'm trying to do.
I see.
So you've worked in the state of Utah for how many years then?
Almost 15.
Almost 15 years. Uh-huh. The only reason I would wonder about the 12-month review is just because we did require it of the previous applicant.
So
And
for
also
consistency.
because our ordinance is new.
Yeah, for consistency.
Uh-huh.
Sharon?
That would be the only reason, and as long as everything is compliant, I mean, there's no, that isn't any kind of threat to you. It's just because our ordinance is new and because we required it to the previous applicant. I don't know what your thoughts are.
That would just be coming here again, or?
I think it would be, or was just with
I
staff.
think staff can review that, can't they? Or does it,
We would invite the applicant, because, you know, that it's their business and their conditional use permit, but, yeah, we would just review that quickly with you, see if there's any calls for service regarding crime or anything, but.
It does say in the previous condition, it said review by the Planning Commission.
okay,
So she
okay.
would physically come here.
Yeah, Planning Commission.
I think that's what
But
she's
staff
asking.
would have reviewed that prior to you coming, so,
So you could maybe change it to a staff review, or I don't know.
what?
Instead of saying the Planning Commission will review Bridget in 12 months, change it to the staff will review Bridget in 12
Well,
months.
from what the staff would review it and then she would come
Okay.
and with the planning commission. I think that's what we did on the previous
one.
applicant.
Yes, that's true.
I don't know, how do you feel about that?
So she do it one time after 12 months. I mean, are we going to have it continually be every 12 months after that?
No, it's just,
I don't think so.
yeah, it's just
No.
once.
Yeah, one time.
What are
I think
your
it's- I
thoughts?
think for consistency's sake, it might be good.
Okay. And anytime we do a conditional use permit, it is what they call complaint driven. So, you know, as long as everything's great and everyone's happy, then, then there shouldn't be any kind of problem with that. So do you want to add that on as a condition then?
Yes,
The
we should.
12-month review with staff and planning
In a
commission?
motion, let's do that.
Do you want me to give you
Okay.
the exact language of the last condition?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it was, there will be a 12-month review by the planning commission that these conditions are being followed.
Okay.
So it looks like you'll be working with a chiropractor there, is that right? Or is
Yeah,
it?
it's a wellness center. There's a couple chiropractors and a couple other practitioners.
Okay, but you'll have a separate
I have a separate office
office
in the building.
in the building? So you're not connected with anyone in particular?
Correct.
Okay.
It's separate businesses in one building.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for clarification on that.
It's a good strategy.
So you're in a chiropractor's offices, but you're separate from them. Is that what you're saying?
She has her own
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, it's one building with
Mhm.
offices that has chiropractors, and then I have a separate office for massage,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's one other office that do a couple different
Mm-hmm.
health.
So you have like separate entrance, separate time, you know, you can set your own business hours or whatever
Yeah, I
based
set
upon
on my
that.
own, the entrance is the same. There's a lobby and then
Okay.
all the offices together, but I set everything as my own business. Nothing
Okay.
goes through anyone else.
Okay. I don't really have any other questions. She's compliant with everything but just the business license and conditional use permit. And if we add on that 12-month review, I think, are we ready for a motion?
I'd be happy to make it, but you might have to help me, Mary, with that last one
Got it.
again.
Wrote it down too.
Okay. I move to approve the applicant's request for conditional use permit to use the property located at 515 West, 550 North, Suite B, for a massage therapy business with the following conditions. 1, the applicant will comply with all of the massage establishment requirements found in section 5.30 of the Lindon City Code. 2, the applicant will continually maintain all professional licensing with the state of Utah. 3, all regulations, codes, and ordinances of the state of Utah and Lindon City will continually be followed. 4, there'll be a 12-month review by the Planning Commission to make sure these rules are being followed.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. And number 5, all items of the staff report.
Second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
Congratulations.
Good luck to
Okay,
you.
Thank you very much for being here. The next item on our agenda will be a public hearing, and so I do need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a
I
second?
second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And this is item number 5, a public hearing for a zone map amendment at approximately 400 North, 400 West. Our applicant is the Holland Group. Is that you, sir, if you'd like to come up? And our presenting staff is Michael Florence.
Okay, thank
So,
you,
go ahead.
Commissioners. So the Holland Group has made an application to rezone the property located here, outlined in red. It's 6.1 acres. They have made an application to rezone it from, it's currently zoned R120 and general commercial. And they're proposing to amend the zoning to R1 12,000. So 12,000 square foot lots on that property. They've provided a, get to that. They've provided a conceptual plan. The city has not done any subdivision reviews on this or design review. They've provided this plan that would show 400 north connecting to 400 west. That's currently in our master plan. It's been there for a number of years. And then also a connection over to Gilman Lane. That's also in the city's master plan. So the lot sizes range in size from 12,000 square feet is the smallest up to 15,700 square feet. The surrounding uses to the west, you have newer single-family neighborhoods. Those are zoned R120. I think I've got a zoning map here. So the green is the R120 zones. The pinkish color is to the east is general commercial. You can see how the property has the two different zoning districts on it. What the city code says is the most restrictive is what takes the precedence. And so the R120 is what it's currently zoned on that property. To the south, you've got R120 as well, and then to the north is the mix of the three, R120, commercial general storage, and commercial general. And so the general plan map shows this area as commercial. However, the property is zoned mainly for residential. So let me go back to the transportation map. This shows that area. It shows a minor collector road going, that's in yellow here, connecting 400 north to 400 west, and then a local road connecting over to Gilman Lane. I wanted to go real quick. Let me open up another screen. So this is the overall zoning map for the city. You can see this line up here that divides the green and the yellow. So most of our 12,000 square foot lots are east of the Murdoch Canal. We do have smaller lot sizes out here with the Anderson Farms development. And then as you, on Lakeview, some of the older lots along Lakeview here are less than the 20. They're zoned 20,000 square feet, but they are less size than 20. They range in size from 8,000 to 40,000 square feet along Lakeview Drive there. The Holland Group previously held 2 concept meetings with the City Council for some higher density product. I gave you copies of those in your staff report. We can pull those up as well. With concept plans, those are just general feedback that is proposed, that the City Council gives. They don't make any decisions. They reviewed this first one that was, I believe, 32 units, had a mixture of townhomes and single-family homes. They next reviewed this one that was 30 units, I believe. Let me double check that number. Yeah, it was 30 units, and it was a mixture of single-family homes and twin homes. In both these proposals, the developer would have dedicated a 1 acre detention basin to the city. That is not part of this current proposal. The current proposal shows approximately 16 single-family homes on the property. That would have that minimum 12,000 square foot lot size. And so the Planning Commission is making a recommendation to the City Council. The City Council will then make the final decision on this
at a future meeting. And so with that, myself and I apologize, you're filling in for Phil, so
Tyson Williamson.
Tyson,
I work
so
with
myself or Tyson would be glad to answer any questions.
Could you just expand a little bit more on overview number 4?
What do you mean by overview number 4? Sorry.
It says that the city council was not,
Oh, okay. Yes, in the staff report.
just kind of tell us a little bit about that in the staff report, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what the city council was presented, those 2 previous concept plans.
Right.
The council said those were not, most of the council said those were too dense. That most of the council said they wanted to see something less dense on the property. So then that's why the applicant came back with a 12,000 square foot lot proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, to that we had felt the recommendation was the most dense that would be accepted would be an R1 12,000, and so went back to the drawing board and that's
And
what
this
we
is
had.
the result of
Yeah.
that.
And not all the council members said that.
Correct, yeah.
And so that 12,000 square foot number was thrown out, but it wasn't like go out and
Right,
make an application for 12,000, but that was discussed at the meeting.
okay.
Some of these lots would actually be bigger than that, right?
Yeah, and actually, I don't know how relevant it is. It shows 16. We actually would like to do 15, so there's the 2 longer triangles. We'd probably like to make that one bigger lot. So yeah, they're 1/4 acre or plus.
And I probably need to talk a little bit more about Gilman. So 400 North, when that does go through, let me give a little bit of a history on that. And so the city purchased an easement underneath the older church building here. And so our agreement with the church is that when we decide to put in 400 North, we have to give them a 1 year's notice, and then they're responsible for tearing down this building and they use the money from us purchasing the underlying ground for to help build that new building. And so with Gilman Avenue, or Gilman Lane, at some point when 400 North is opened, UDOT will probably require Gilman Lane to be closed. And so we don't know exactly how that closure will work yet. It hasn't been designed. That was one of the things I identified in the staff report that we still need to work out. And so, so there'll probably be questions about that tonight. We don't know what that will look like, but at some point, Gilman Lane will probably be closed.
Okay. Do you have any additional information to provide?
No, I think one thing we're excited about is, as was shown, we were desirous of something that was more dense, thinking that it would be a good fit, but I think as we got feedback, this feels a lot, maybe more natural is probably a good word. Mm-hmm. It feels like the adequate lot size that will provide good homes, and so we're hoping that it's well received.
Mm-hmm. Now that, I know in previous proposals, you were going to dedicate some land for a detention basin for the city.
Yeah.
But it appears that you wouldn't do that with this plan.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came to an economics on what the value of the land is and what we can achieve with the density, and so it became difficult.
Mm-hmm. Now, will you be the contractor on the homes also?
Yeah.
What type of homes do you plan to build there?
So our firm builds, they're a higher end, we call them spec homes, so we're more in the kind of move-up home environment.
Okay.
So homes.
Average square footage of
yeah,
the
home-
house would be what?
Yeah, 4,000, 4,500 to 5,000, depending on what fits on the lots.
Wow, those are really nice homes.
We'd like them to be, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, or can I ask for public comment? Okay. I know many of you residents are probably here for this item, and this is a public hearing, and so we would like to hear your comments. We would ask that you direct those to the commission. And also, if there's comments that have already been said, then those don't need to be repeated, and that you keep your comments brief. So if there is someone that would like to ask questions or make comment, this is the time to do that. Okay, and if you could
Come forward. Nope,
Yeah.
you need to come forward and give your name, please.
You can go ahead and take a seat if they're up here. And if you'd state your name? Yes,
Mhm.
Okay, my name is Lori Esteban, and I live on Gilman Lane there, and that we're talking about. I'm going to speak for quite a few of us because we've all been in conversation about this for quite a while, and over the years, just because we've had so many issues that have negatively impacted Gilman Lane over the years. So these are some of the, quite a few of the comments that's been made that, of course, we would love to see Gilman Lane closed. It would be great if it could end or begin where the residential starts there at Lori Williams's home, where, right there next to the Wild Oak. If it could somehow end there so that the Wild Oak problems that we have, I'll refer to the event center there as the Wild Oak, so you know what I'm talking about.
right.
There's so many parking issues and traffic issues that has added to Gilman,
Right.
that would help solve, because it's very hard to drive up the road on the nights they have events, because they're parking on Gilman Lane after, coming down quite a ways down Gilman Lane, because the road signs, are posted for it to not be parked on. But so they come down at least a block or more into the neighborhood and fill up that area of the neighborhood on certain nights. And then they are parking in the church and Los Hermanos parking. And so you have a lot of pedestrian foot traffic there, and they just cover the whole road, and don't care that people are trying to drive up and down that road. And of course, at night, especially this time of year, it's dark. You come around that corner off State Street or come up the road, you can't see them until you're right on them, and they don't move. They'll just take their time and walk the whole block while you wait. So
Right.
that would help with that if it ended there and not just ended at State Street. And then some of the concerns that we have and that I have is that road that comes down and branches off and goes over to Gilman Lane, is that necessary? It would be nice for that to not go through, so that traffic is not coming to go to the Wild Oak or all of that through the neighborhood. That if it could come on the commuter roads on Lakeview and 400, come off 400 in that area, instead of that being open, that would help keep that traffic. Because Gilman Lane, when I have walked it or measured it, it's about 17 feet wide.
Right.
When Lakeview Road was closed, all that traffic started coming down Gilman Lane. It's not meant for that traffic. So if that road stays there, that branch coming off there from off of the 400 onto Gilman Lane, it can't handle that traffic. And it's already been pretty much developed. There's really nowhere to widen it to accommodate that much traffic all the time. And they can't pass. They just cannot pass cars side by side safely. They're going off right up onto the curb. That one area has not been widened, and there's a telephone pole right in the middle. I don't know how many times I've witnessed someone flying up that road and slam on their brakes when they see that. And so it would just be so nice if Gilman Lane was shut down and that road did not exist. So we know that the subdivision's gonna go in there, something has to go in there, you can't stop that development.
Right.
But if we could somehow, after all these years of the negative impacts of traffic being forced down a tiny little single lane road, it would be nice. We've been being promised for years, 15 plus years, that when this road, if this property is sold, that will solve all of our problems. So here's the time. It would be really nice just once to get a win in our win column for that road.
Well, I know there's a lot of things like that that'll have to be worked out.
Yeah, so just want to bring that up to you. I didn't get a chance to send letters, and I know there's quite a few of us that live down on we have a name for it, but it's not the proper name. Is it 225 or 250 North? I know a lot of those residents, and we thought, should we go out and get signatures to just show how supportive we are that that road just gets shut down so that the through traffic is not coming through there? It would just help so many problems that's
I know
on that road.
that's been a big problem on Gilman Lane.
so That's
we
kind of our
understand
thing,
that.
the lots, you know, we don't really have what's called a true half acre anymore. So they're getting little and littler all the time and still being called half acres, but they're really not. So the lot size, I mean, it would be great to just see 12 homes go in there. But I think the main issue is if there is 16 homes going in and that road didn't exist, it would be really nice. And then that property, you know, you could somehow even attach the commercial to that, but not have it come out onto Gilman if there's a road to go through. So
Okay,
that's just
appreciate
my
that.
comments.
Yeah,
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
letting me talk.
Sharon, can I
Yes.
answer one of those questions real quick?
Sure.
So that connection over to Gilman Lane, something has to happen there because you can't have a dead-end street like that. It's too long to meet fire code. You can't have one way in and one way out of that neighborhood. Our city code says you can only have 650 feet, and you can only have so many homes on a dead-end street. So that would probably prohibit us from putting in a dead-end street on Gilman. That width right now, or that length right now is, if I go from here, if we went to the Williams, that's 1,200 feet. So you couldn't create that Gilman as a dead-end street.
Okay. Okay. Do I have others? If you'd like to come up, please, and state your name.
I'm Leona Christensen. I live in the first house just on the west side of Gilman Lane there. I don't have any problems with the connection of the new road coming down 400 North and branching both ways. I think that's wise. I think most of our White Oak traffic, you know, I think they will be able to provide a map that will say come from State Street and turn down there rather than coming, you know, up Gilman Lane. And even if they do get off the freeway and come up there, I think they'll come up Lakeview and turn across that way and go. So, but I like the fact that you want to close that. Right now, we really are having a problem with speeders on that road. And it's just, I'm shocked at what we see going down the street. We were wondering if there's any way, if it still continues, to put some speed bumps in there, to just slow it down, you know, because it's not that many feet from State Street down to where it turns and goes south on Gilman Lane. But I like this concept a lot better than any of the other high density. I am concerned again about parking for those individuals in those new homes that come there. Hopefully they will have wide driveways and get off the road and not have a lot of parking on the new street connectors there. So I don't know if that's something that...
There's a lot of things to be worked out, but with the type of homes they're planning to put in there, I think they will have sufficient parking for those homes.
Maybe a question to the developer.
Right.
Most of those homes have 3-car garages? So most of them have 3-car garages and a driveway to support 3-car garages.
I think that's wonderful. You know, we know that, you know, development has to happen. We love our happy little house there right now, but we've had people build right in behind us and whatever, and they've been good neighbors and all that. But we are concerned about the traffic on Gilman Lane, just like Lori said. And the other thing is, when we get there, I hope we can control the street lighting quite well and not have some really bright street lights, but I know we'll have to have some. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that has comments? Go ahead.
Sorry, some of my stuff might be a little repeat because I was at a thing and I ran here and really quick, but
Okay.
I live right there. My house is right on the back there.
And can you give your name?
Oh, sorry. My name is Minta Valentine.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay, just a couple of questions for you. So I heard about so with the houses, when they are put in the water and all that, how does that, with us in that cul-de-sac right behind it, how is that going to, because I had heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would know this more than I, but that there was a lot of flooding with the water, the way it can kind of, and they put in a pipe, putting these houses in, if we have this kind of issue with water and things like that, who takes care of that?
Well, the developer's gonna have to work out all those things prior to, you know.
What kind of flooding are you talking about? Street flooding or?
Well, it was before we moved in, but we just heard that when there was some building up around it, just kind of where our house is now, it just flooded the whole area. So they have a pipe in there now that, I don't know, did you talk about it at all? I came in a little. They have a pipe in now, but sometimes it kind of overflows a little, which is in his backyard, which is right next to mine. And that's where but that's before any more houses have come in or anything else, you know? And so that's kind of one of the concerns about that. We just obviously don't want our house flooded.
Right. Mike, do you have anything you could add to that?
So that, the previous proposals, the city recognizes there is a need for a detention area over there. And so that was one of the previous proposals, that the developer would have dedicated an acre of ground for that detention area. And so there's still a need, even if the city doesn't get this property for detention, we still recognize there's a need and we need to do something over there. And so we've talked to the Cooks, we've worked with this developer, we're trying to negotiate something over there for a detention/park area.
Okay, thank you.
And Mike, is that a city responsibility to deal with that? Is it stormwater that's the problem?
I don't know for sure where that water comes from.
Did it run off
Sure.
from the Los Hermanos when they put in that parking lot where it used to be, farmland? So it's some runoff from that, way of drain. So they did go, Los Hermanos did go down and put a drain in there, but I understand there's still some residual.
There's a spring underneath there.
Okay, okay.
So it actually, over by the Cooks Park, there's actually a pipe that runs down in back of,
Between the houses and Cook's
right,
Farm.
houses and Cooks Farm, and it goes all the way down and runs into that little drainage canal that's behind the houses over there, and it's continually running, so it
Okay,
has a little bit of drainage continually, so.
okay. What we'll do is, when she is finished, if there's some of you that would like to come up and provide information on that, you're welcome to. Okay.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. So just a few of the concerns with I of course love these smaller lots better than what was proposed before. But I just have some of the same concerns when it comes to people. We do have with that wedding center there, which we came and we really were concerned a lot about not having enough parking. They park over in the church parking lot. So you're gonna have people walking through these areas at night. Right now, it's just willy-nilly. They'll walk right down the middle of Gilman Lane, and it's dark, and it's one of those as I'm driving, because I think they just don't consider it a road. People don't. I don't know, and so they just are kind of walking down, and so it's just putting something like that in. That's another concern of having too many people there. Would people be able to park on the side of the roads if they had? Because I feel like having that many houses and you have family or stuff like that, is that gonna, because I feel like that's gonna be a very busy road. Is that gonna allow for people parking on the outside of it, or how is that gonna?
That road that road's the one that's gonna be a 66?
Yes,
Is
it
that
is.
66-foot road that goes through there? That's one of the problems with developing this property, is that the developer's gotta put that road through there. So that's a big wide road.
So but there'll be enough room to park on the sides of it for cars?
Yes.
So for example, the wedding center, if they're they're gonna have parking there, because that will probably be an issue unless,
So, Mike, what's the width of the little road going off to Gilman?
So, sorry, my mouse isn't working. This one is 50 feet here, that would go off to Gilman, and this one's 66 feet.
Okay, on a 50-foot, does that, remind me, is that wide enough to put a car on each side?
Yes.
Plus traffic, okay.
That's our standard local street in Lindon.
Okay.
Okay.
good, that would just be one of the things. And then, oh, I had another question. What was my other question? So would they, I can't remember now. Sorry, my thought went all over there. But me personally having that, of course, I would much rather have the half-acre lots. I love the little bit of Lindon. With the wedding reception center there, it's been really difficult on our neighborhood. A lot of noise, a lot of traffic, a lot of people that aren't really respectful sometimes, no matter the hour or how they're going down. So we definitely would like, as the neighborhood's growing, for it to not, go the wrong way, being especially the way Lindon is. So, but I would definitely, I prefer this over the other if we have to. But yeah, so that's my concern. And then, of course, the water. So if one of you guys want to come talk about the water, that would be awesome.
Thank you so much.
My name's Arian Coker-Hance. I like this so much better than what I've seen before. I'm very encouraged. Thank you for that. Looks great. I also would love to see Gilman Lane closed off. I don't know if there's a way to cul-de-sac right there, because for emergency vehicles, obviously that's important. My thinking is the people buying these homes are going to really dislike the reception center traffic that they are going to get in people parking. So spending that much on a home, I would be upset if I had people parking in front of my house from a reception center all the time. So I don't know if that's possible, if it would take too much land away, but I think a cul-de-sac there would make a lot of sense. And if not, I like the speed bump idea. With the reception center, people coming up Gilman Lane, so many times it's not real visible, and they're looking, instead of at the road, and they're driving up the middle of the road, I'm like, ha, all the time. And I live on 250 North, and people fly up it all the time, late for a reception or whatever, heading to the reception center. They don't use Lakeview, they use 250 North a lot. So the other concern is that 90-degree turn almost at Gilman Lane where it's turning on to, just people aren't looking. So I'm going on this, and they're coming into my lane, and then they see me, and they're around. So maybe paint some lines there if this isn't, if it's not possible cul-de-sac, because it is going to get busier, I'm sure. So I'd love to see a cul-de-sac there if possible, but this looks so much better than the high density. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And those are all good suggestions. There is a long ways to go.
Yeah.
As far as.
With just a real quick with the reception center, when they built the reception center and we came in as a neighborhood and had a problem with it, we said there's not enough parking. And they said, no, there's enough parking. We have enough. And we said there's not. And so I think it might have been you guys. And you said, well, they're not allowed to park on the streets. They're not allowed to do that. And if they do, then you need to let us know. And so we have, because of that, so that might be something as this is going in, saying, hey, listen, there's no reception center parking on this lot just for safety, for, just mini, type of thing. So
Appreciate those suggestions. Thank you so much. Okay. And your name, sir?
Royal Christensen.
Okay.
When you shut off the Gilman Lane at the highway, how are they gonna get those semis in to Los Hermanos? That's how they get their produce, all their supplies. So you go and shut that off, you're shutting down the business.
Well, I know in talking with the planning department this afternoon, they've got a lot of things
So
they've got to work out
We
on
won't
that.
close it off at State Street. So Gilman Lane, in this area here, will just turn into more of a driveway for the businesses. The terminating Gilman Lane will happen somewhere in this area down here.
Not at the highway.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
And if you could give your name, sir?
I will.
Okay.
My name's John Ellis.
Uh-huh.
I too live in that cul-de-sac. So, in reference to the water, there is a pipe running the back of the Valentine's home back here, and there's also a pipe running down from Cook's. The pipe running down Cook's thing, it always has water in it. It's not, it goes from being a little trickle to quite a good flow, and it flows into that irrigation canal that is behind, that is now it's no longer being used, I guess. It was gonna be piped at one time, but we don't know what's going on with that, so, there's always a water flow there. There's always some water in it regardless, and when Gary Thornton waters his property, the water doesn't increase or decrease anymore. It has nothing to do with him watering his property. There's underflow water somewhere along there, so, just so that you know.
Well, appreciate that information. Those things all need to be considered.
Yeah, this is better than the other one, but yeah, I'd like for the Gilman Lane to have a cul-de-sac and a speed bump, so, yeah. I'm not eloquent, sorry.
You did great. Okay, is there anyone else that's got comments that are different than what's already been said?
David Holbrook, I live in the cul-de-sac right there as well. And I need to clarify, the pipe goes through my property along rather than on Cook's all the way down. And then I'm supportive. I think this is a good medium between, with housing shortages, where we're providing, maybe this is the right opportunity to provide quarter-acre lots. I wouldn't want, things is a frog in water, right? I want to be careful that if we approve it here, we don't keep it going down, right? The Cook's property gets sold and it doesn't become quarter, right? Just because this now extends farther how far in we have quarter-acre lots. I just want to kind of draw a line. Obviously, that's to the next meeting that comes up in however many years. But anyway, so I'm supportive. I think it's a good option. So, and I'm sure the road options will be discussed through future meetings, and I'd love to hear feedback and different ideas.
So Mike, just to clarify, wouldn't we call these third-acre lots in Lindon with the 1,200 versus?
I think it's 3.6 units to the acre.
12,000 to 15,000, yeah.
So,
Okay, go ahead, sir.
third acre,
Yeah.
I think is what we'd call them, just like we call 20,000 here.
Clark Esteban. I live on Gilman Lane also. I just have one comment on this issue.
Okay.
Half-acre lots, we love half-acre lots. You're putting a big home on a smaller lot. Is this going to open the floodgates for other developers to go throughout our city and build larger homes on smaller lots? That's my main concern.
And of course, I can't predict the future, but one of the reasons we would consider that on this piece of property is it is a very difficult piece of property to develop, because the developer's got to put, that 66-foot road right down through the development. That
I'm
makes
just saying,
it
is it going to
difficult to
open things
develop.
up, like, for instance, on my piece or even Farnsworth piece, if they were ever to go and develop that piece, is that going to fall under that, to go smaller lots?
As far as
Once we do this, are
as
we
far
gonna
as a
open floodgates?
plan, that's not.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
the
is this going to
plan
open
right now.
floodgates, is
No.
all I'm saying. It's
No.
other ones going to do.
I would make one comment, though, as far as, and I have no idea on that, that isn't the plan, but anything above the Murdoch Canal is 12,000 square foot and above. And you've seen, as far as
More
their,
expensive homes are up
yeah,
there.
you've seen the homes that are up there. They're beautiful homes.
No, I
just on
agree.
a smaller
I agree. The homes are
lot.
beautiful.
It's,
Us that live on the west side, we like our open space.
right,
half-acre
I
lots.
understand that.
And once
yeah.
we start I mean, is this following us all around? So
That isn't the plan
Yeah.
at this, but.
And each, right now, currently, each parcel would have to be rezoned, right? I mean, this doesn't open anything up for it to be, we're only rezoning one piece of property. So the worry of, that this opens anything up, that really, everything would have to be rezoned.
No, that's.
So the zoning isn't
You answered
changing.
my question right there.
The
I
zoning's only
appreciate that.
changing for this
Right.
one piece of
Okay,
property.
all right.
And at this point, it's, the reason, as far as my understanding, the main reason we would consider this is because of the difficulty of this piece of property being able to be developed.
Sure, I agree. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think one other item is you're transitioning from commercial to, you know,
Right.
larger lots. You know, with the roads and those impacts, you know, this might be a good transition from more of a commercial to a very low-density use.
Right, right.
And from a legal perspective, as far as this setting a precedence that's going to open a floodgate, the unique characteristics of this property would foreclose that type of argument. If a future developer were to come in and say, hey, you did it there, you have to do it here, I don't think that would hold any legal water at all.
No, it's not the same situation.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Is there anyone else? And then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up to the commission. Okay, appreciate all of your comments very much. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, what's your opinions or thoughts or?
And we're voting on the zoning, we're not voting on the site plan or
No.
anything like, we're just zoning.
Well, you'll get another notice in the mail if the developer moves forward to subdivision approval. And at that time, we will have more specific designs for Gilman Lane, for the roads, those things. And I would hope that, you know, we can maybe reach out to the residents beforehand so we can discuss those ideas. We've even talked about, is it, you know, would it be best to even just stick up a temporary closure, like a Jersey barrier, and figure out, okay, where's the best place to put this right now so we make the right decision.
Yeah, test it out.
Yeah, can you close that without a road going through, though? Without the new road going through? For the same reasons that you can't make it a cul-de-sac?
Well, it would be after this
After the road,
goes
okay.
in, so that way they have the two entrances.
But Mike, would there be a way to figure that out beforehand so everybody knows where?
Yeah, we can work on,
Because I think that's important. There's been some good points brought up.
Right.
Advantages to, like Mrs. Christensen said, the through may be better than people coming up through Gilman Lane to go to the wedding reception place, but depending on where that closure is, you know, because the way it's drawn right now, people could at least come off State Street and scoot over through that road, you know, where they wouldn't be going through all the way through the west neighborhoods to go get up to the, you know, so it's kind of important
yeah.
to know where that
When you'll have,
closure's gonna go, cause it could really make things a lot better for them all down there on Gilman Lane.
one, you've got lots 1, 2, and 3 that will still face Gilman Lane.
Yeah, so they've
And
gotta
so-
have access and.
So, yeah.
And we understand as a commission why, you know, we can't have a long cul-de-sac there for safety purposes. But it'd be nice to kinda know, you know, just ascertain in advance where that road closure's gonna be.
Yeah, we'll need to work on a design,
Yeah.
but whether that goes in permanently or we try things out, but we'll have to work on a design, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think it's fine.
You know, like I said before, this is just such a difficult piece of property because you have that road. That's a lot of road that they have to put in, and so I think like I think most of the residents have said, I think this is a pretty good compromise to get, well, maybe a little more density for that road. I didn't think I'd see a proposal this good, I guess, in a long time, looking at that piece of property.
Well, and I'm pleased that, you know, the citizens down there most impacted are open-minded to what needs to take place and happen. And yet, everybody wants to make the traffic better, not worse.
Yeah.
And so there definitely needs to be some forethought into that. As far as 12 new residences there,
15.
15.
16.
16, whatever it is, that's not really gonna be the impact. The impact's what's coming off Fourth North, coming down, and I've expressed this before, all my neighbors and residents that live on 400 West, there does need to be some traffic calming situations to make this a doable situation, possibly some stop signs, couple of stop signs, so it doesn't become basically the freeway on-ramp to go get on I-15.
Yeah.
You know,
Good job.
Yeah.
so speed bumps aren't an option, I'm sure, probably. I don't know if they're an option going, where we're going from a major collector to a minor collector on 400 West. Maybe speed bumps on 400 West aren't an option, but there's 2 or 3 places that we could at least stop the traffic so people, if they want to drive like a bat out of hell, they can stay on State Street instead of turn 400 West into a freeway on-ramp.
Yeah, our city administrator has asked the city engineer to start
Looking to where
to
some
to
calming nature.
to start evaluating that.
Anyone else? Rob, do you have other comments?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the development is a good development, the way it's proposed so far. You know, with the Lindon Nursery and the other one across the street, the Hatch property, we were always concerned about transition from commercial and higher density to the lower density. This, I think, accomplishes that quite well for the residents who live down in that area.
Because the residents have, it's been, even though it was zone part of it, commercial, it's been basically agricultural residential.
That's right.
So it's, yeah.
So 2 cars are gonna be more
Yeah.
than what they've experienced.
Right.
Jared, do you have any?
I am sad that these residents are putting up with so much traffic from the
Right.
reception center. I just
Right.
wonder if there's some way that this, in developing all this, the owner of the Wild Oaks could have some opportunity to buy some land, make a proper parking lot or something. It'd be nice to be able to accomplish that in the development of this parcel, but just speaking strictly with the zoning change, which is what we're here to talk about, I'm good with that.
As far as the zoning change, I'm good with that too. With the difficulty in developing this property, I think this will be a nice development. I do think we've got to really work on the traffic and the problems that way, and water problems and that, before the development is put in. As far as the type of homes that go in there, I think those will be, I'm not worried about nice homes going on these size of lots, because really nice homes can go in.
These are bigger than 1/4 acre lots. I mean, outside
Yeah,
Lindon,
12,000
that's a
square foot
nice,
lot.
it's a very nice lot.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about that either.
No.
It still fits a nice big home, and yet it's manageable for those that don't really wanna
A yard.
feel like they're in the farming business.
Right,
Yep.
right. So as far as the zoning change, I'm good with that. I do think some work needs to be done as far as Gilman Lane. That is a really hard problem for the residents that live there. And I know the city has taken some steps on other reception centers and parking to make sure that we're not in that situation again, but the problem is still there for you folks. So we do understand that. So it sounds like we are ready for a motion.
Yeah, Sharon, I just wanna,
Go ahead.
Just make note, I have read the note given to me, and that there is a resident
Right.
that's opposed to it versus what we've heard here today. So I just will acknowledge that there is.
Noted.
Right.
That's noted.
Right, we
Just
have
I
for
did
read
the-
receive one more email prior to the meeting that was supportive of the zone change, as long as it didn't encroach further into other areas.
Okay, so just noted before we vote.
Right, I think we've all read that. Okay. Are we
I
ready
feel
for a
good about the
motion?
zone change. I am a little concerned that we would be recommending something that the city council has already kind of frowned on.
No, they frowned on the higher,
This is, yeah. All I'm saying is that this water detention thing, if you can work that out, might be the diamond in the rough.
So we're not recommending this zone change to the city council, we're the total. You are recommending,
Yes.
we're not the acting body.
the acting body.
Okay.
So if the commission recommends approval tonight, this will probably be on the Monday city council meeting.
Right.
So the residents should watch the city council agenda that comes out tomorrow, because it'll probably be on the Monday city council meeting.
Okay,
But
no,
I've
we're
even
just,
asked the developer if Monday works for him, so.
we're just recommending approval. So, do I have someone that's willing to make a motion? Mike, do you want to make that?
No,
No?
no, I don't.
Okay. Steve?
I can do another one.
Okay.
I move to recommend approval of ordinance 2022-17-0 to amend the Lindon City zoning map from residential R120 and commercial general to residential R12 for the property located at approximately 400 north and 400 west, parcel number 14-068-0140.
Okay, I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and do you want to?
Yeah. Again, I'm pleased with the layout. I'm pleased that the neighbors could see themselves being compatible to 12,000 square foot lots there. Because inflit fill and difficult pieces have issues that need to be worked out. I would just myself prefer, mainly for the residents there on Gilman Lane, to kind of have more of a hard, fast understanding of how that road's gonna be closed and how that's gonna work. But I know that doesn't keep the motion from going on to the city council, but that's how I feel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay, appreciate you residents being here with us. There's a lot of work to do on it before anything can happen.
Will there be a lot of work, meaning that this doesn't give them, if it does pass, freedom to just do whatever, right? Like, there's still a lot of. Yes.
It's got to go through a subdivision process, and so that's when we will get into the design details of the development. We'll have to look at all the roads. We'll look at Gilman Lane at that point. Right now, they've given us a proposal that 16 lots fits on there with a 66-foot wide street and a 50-foot wide street. And so there's a lot more detail that will be examined and reviewed by our city engineer and the planning department.
Where my stomach sinks is that with the reception center, there was a lot of promises that didn't happen. So I just want to make sure that, that this is something that when they do it, that they follow through, because there were a lot of promises and they didn't happen. And it's a matter of time, I think, before someone gets injured on that road the way it is now. So.
Can I just say one thing? I know I'm supposed to go out there, but I've had people come down my road in the last 2 weeks that have going 50 by the time I hit my house, and I live right around the corner. And they're going anywhere from 40 to 50 miles an hour, and they're kids from high school. It's not the reception center, a lot of it, but most of it is coming down that road. New people have moved down there,
It's
because
residents that live
road,
there.
There's, I know you can't do speed bumps, but something's gotta be done with the way people drive down that road. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
When they're going 50 miles an hour at my house.
Thank you very much.
And just to clarify, the city has a resident petition for traffic calming. And so there's an online application, well, it's not an online, there's an online packet that talks about the analysis the city can do to review traffic calming in the city. And so if residents are interested, they can apply, and the city engineer and public works director will review all that so that, if they can evaluate if a road's good for different traffic calming options. But it's resident initiated. So if you want access to that, you can't find it on the website, please contact me and I will provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you for being here and providing input. Okay, the next item on our agenda is also it's an ordinance amendment, and so we do need to open a public hearing again. Do I have a motion to open a public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And this is item number 6 on the agenda. This is an ordinance amendment, 17.46, accessory apartments. And the applicant is Lindon City, and the presenting staff is Michael Florence.
Okay, thanks, commissioners. So, Mr. College has made an application to amend the accessory apartment ordinance. We've amended this will be the 5th time in the last 4 years, so we're very familiar with this ordinance. So what the petition is to allow accessory apartments on what we're calling deeper lots in Lindon. So a lot that would be deeper than 250 feet in depth. They could have an accessory apartment. If they meet that depth requirement, they could have an accessory apartment in the front yard. And so what this really accomplishes is some of these larger estate lots where the home is in the back, it would allow you to do an accessory apartment in the front. Now you'd have to have a 30-foot standard setback for the accessory apartment, and then 60 feet between the accessory apartment and the primary single-family home. And so let me go over that language really quick. So what it proposes is that front accessory dwelling unit setbacks for lots with more than 250 feet in depth. So lots that have a depth greater than 250 feet may be allowed to have an accessory apartment located in the front setback. If the detached accessory dwelling unit is located in the front of the primary single-family dwelling, then the front, rear, and side yard setbacks are the same as those required for primary single-family dwellings in the zoning district. So those setbacks are 30 in the front, 30 in the back, 10 on each side. So that's where I came up with that 60-foot, was a 30-foot rear yard for the accessory apartment, and then a 30-foot front yard for the standard single-family home. So that's kind of where we get that, where I came up with that 60 feet.
So Mike, can I ask a question real quick there? Could they orient it such that it could be 40 feet? If it was turned, so you had the front yard with the side yard? I just, written that way, is that possible? Just a...
Let me go to that.
It can be oriented any way they want.
Because a side yard is...
Side yard is 10.
So if you had 30 for the front of the house, the accessory, just wondering, yeah.
I mean, I'm envisioning this like a carriage house at the front of a lot, right?
I don't know if I really
something like that.
care whether there's 40 or not. I just didn't know if the way the ordinance was written, whether that would be allowed.
So tell me that one more time.
So I mean, you're talking about a front and a backyard setback, but if the primary residence oriented one way and the accessory apartment's oriented 90 degrees the other way,
Perpendicular.
could you have only 40 feet between the two? Because then you'd have a side yard.
And
So the 10 and 30.
Yeah, but I guess on the other hand, a front yard's from the street, and so maybe you can't by definition have a, even if it's
set back from
turned.
the street.
So we're just saying 60 feet. We're not saying 30 feet.
Oh, so that's how you
And
got it, but you're just saying
we're-
60.
that's- I'm telling you how I came up with that, but I'm
Okay.
just calling it out as 60 feet.
Okay.
30 feet backyard.
Yeah.
So then it doesn't matter the orientation.
It
You're
doesn't.
just- Okay.
So, for example, on Mr. College's property, this is over just east of Wadley Farms. Let's see. What's the name of this street? 150 North. So a few, oh, let's see right here. A few years ago, the city approved a subdivision. Sorry, I don't know why the parcel lines aren't coming on. But this is a 3-lot or 2-lot subdivision. I can't tell because the parcel lines aren't on, but 3-lot subdivision. This is the site plan that Mr. College would like to propose. So a future home here in the back with a proposed garage and then accessory apartment above that. And so you can see the 30-foot setback from the street, and then I think you've got 100 feet between the home and the proposed accessory apartment or garage. So looking around, there's a lot of, not a lot of properties this could apply to, but it kind of seems more around the Main Street area, you know, like Rob, your property, this would qualify for that. The Bonnettes next door to you would qualify. You know, some of these homes in this area or properties, you know, or some of those that would qualify for those, for this option.
Mike, let me ask a question. Go back to that drawing showing the college
Yeah.
plot. Why does it need to be so specific, you know, to this same piece of property? What difference would it make if the home in the front was the primary home and where it's saying future home was the accessory home? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it should work both ways.
Because one, you're gonna have a renter in maybe, and the other one you're not.
But who cares if the renter's in the back or in the front?
Doesn't matter.
I'm just asking what.
Because we already have minimum sizes for the detached accessory apartment.
Right.
And so,
And then it would apply, those minimum sizes would apply to this as well, right?
right, so, I mean, so let's say Mr.
So
College-
really, this is allowing us to do something we haven't been able to do.
Mhm.
But we do have an ordinance already that allows us to have an accessory apartment in the back.
Detached.
So we don't need to address that.
We don't. This is now just
It's whether
allowing
there
it in
can
the
be one in
front.
the front.
Yeah.
The only,
I'm fine with it, I just don't know.
And even
what
if,
the difference is.
even if Mr. College, let's say, wanted to live in where the garage is, you know, we don't care where you live.
Right.
You know, we just care how it's designed, basically, and located.
one of the questions I had is from what our staff report said, and in talking with Mike, there aren't any other cities that allow this.
Not that I'm aware of in Utah.
And so I'm
Accessory
wondering why that
apartments
is.
It's in the front yard.
Oh, in the front yard, I was gonna say, you get down in St. George and casitas and stuff, but
Yeah,
they're
this is like a
not in the front
casita or a
yard.
gatehouse
No,
or
they're
a
not in
guest
the front
house
yard.
or a,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think down in Mapleton or Spanish Fork, some of those big lots would have something similar.
I did many
don't.
Google searches. I didn't find any others. Found lots out of state. I didn't find any, you know, in
So
Utah
I'm
itself.
wondering,
But
you know, these other cities, what their reasoning is of why they're not allowing that.
I personally believe most cities didn't allow accessory apartments until the state mandated it a couple years ago.
Well, and they
And-
don't need to allow it when they already allow a home in back of a home, like over in Orem or at these other cities. They're not accessory homes, they're a accessory apartment, they're just another home, either in the front or the back. So, I mean, they're not addressing it the way we are.
So
But it happens.
I've got a question, and I could think of an example. There was a pink house that just sold right there by the pickleball courts on 400 North.
Yeah.
That home's on a
1 acre.
1 acre, and the home was actually shoved over to the west side.
Is it this one?
In this case of sort of this infill, it's the one in the middle there. Yeah. Can that home become the accessory apartment and the home be built without subdividing that lot behind that house? I know there's some limits on square footage that you can use for a detached accessory apartment, but is that a scenario that could occur?
Yeah, as long as it met the setback requirements, and I wish the parcel lines would show up. But as long as you met setback requirements, square footage requirements, yeah, you could build a.
Or because it's deep acreage, would that fall into our flag lot?
Now, this property is.
That is subdividable.
It
has
is
the
subdividable.
frontage for a.
That has enough frontage to put a road back there, you're saying?
But I could see residents do, and I don't have a problem with that, but I could see, there's actually several smaller homes that have deep lots, 250 or more, where that front house becomes now the accessory dwelling unit. And according to this ordinance, the way it's written, that could occur, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. As long as you meet, like I said, the setbacks, the parking, the minimum square foot, or the maximum square footage that's allowed. Yep. Now, the way I came up with the 250-foot depth is because we require a minimum 100 feet of frontage, and so for a 20,000 square foot lot, you've got to have 200 feet of depth. So 100 by 200, and so that's where I came up with the 250, calling it a deep lot.
So these lots would typically be greater than a half acre then to work, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you're basically
with the
saying it's good.
setbacks and separation requirements, yeah.
And that's maybe one reason you don't see it in a lot of other cities. There's not a lot of other cities that
Have big enough lots.
have big lots that are bigger than a half acre.
Are we ready to open it to public? This is a public hearing, so,
I think we already did.
Mr. College, if you have comments you'd like to make, or others, this is the time to do that. Or if there's others here that would like to make input.
I think Mike's explained well.
Alan, let me just have you.
Mostly because those that are listening online
I
can
got you.
hear that.
This is Alan College. I think Mike's explained well the issue we have. It's a deep lot, it's narrow. We'd like to have the home close to the farm, set back. We don't want it so much at that frontage area because it's really not all that aesthetically pleasing. But this allows kind of that win-win.
Okay.
I think there are homes also in Lindon that are on a 400 North or a 4th West where somebody building their dream home, you know, they may want to sit off the road quite a long ways because of traffic and then have that accessory apartment up front. So I think there is some sense in that, but.
I like it.
Any other public comment or questions? Rob, your lot is one that would fit within this,
Oh, easily.
this ordinance.
Plenty of frontage.
What are your thoughts on it?
I don't have any issues with the ordinance. I think it makes a lot of sense to sometimes build the little smaller home or the gate home or whatever you want to call it, casita, in front with a larger home in back, especially in this farm, the Wadley Farm, where you want to put the larger structure closer to the other structures built. Makes a lot of sense.
And aesthetically, do you feel okay about that? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think people are gonna be putting up a tin shack in front of a lot like that. I mean, I don't think we have to worry about it not looking appropriate, you know? I mean, I think that's one of the concerns maybe, right, if someone would build.
Right.
But I don't think my personal, I don't think, you get a lot that big and it's an accessory apartment. I don't, maybe a little bit what Jared says, maybe the older houses would survive, but I would assume people, if they have a nice big new house in the back, would probably fix the house up in front.
Okay. Are we ready to close the public hearing then? Bring the discussion up here?
We're done.
Okay, Renee, you want to?
Yeah, let's close the,
Second that. Motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
And just one other item, you probably saw in the ordinance, I struck out primary residence. We called it a whole bunch of different things in the ordinance. We didn't have some consistent language. We said single-family dwelling, primary residence. I cleaned that all up, and we have the definition of single-family dwelling in our code already. And so I just called everything primary single-family dwelling. It's just to make sure our language is all cleaned up in there, so.
So that's a requirement of all these still, right? That the owner has to be in one of the two.
That's correct. I think it allows for a sabbatical type thing, if you're
And it also.
leaving for something, so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
A
Thank you.
single-family home would have sufficient driveway space.
Correct.
Do you have any other discussion, or are you ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion.
And this will also go to the city council.
I move to recommend that we approve ordinance amendment 2022-16-0. Was there any?
Presented?
As presented, there's no conditions, nothing, just as presented.
Okay. I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you again for your service.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is also a ordinance amendment, and so we will need to open the public hearing again. So do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, and this is an ordinance amendment 17.04400, animal assisted therapy business at 215 North, 200 East. Our applicant is Gerald Nebaker. Is that you, sir? Okay. And our presenting staff is Mary Barnes.
Yes.
And Mr. Nebaker, if you'd like to come up to the front, that would be great.
And I just want to clarify, this is an ordinance amendment for the whole of Lindon, not just 215 North, 200 East, but 215
Right.
North, 200 East is where Mr. Nebaker lives.
Okay.
And he applied for this. Okay, so Gerald Nebaker has applied to amend the home occupation code to allow animal-assisted therapy businesses as a home occupation. This is due to his desire to open up an animal-assisted therapy business called Squawks and Bars. According to our research, I haven't really been able to track down a model ordinance or something for this type of home occupation, so we've based a lot of it off of the business description that Mr. Nebaker provided. And this ordinance amendment will most likely be the first of its kind within at least Utah County. So the home occupation ordinance was amended in 2017 to allow summer swimming lessons in residential zones. And this current amendment will also allow another kind of unique business within a residential zone, while also providing for regulations to help with neighbors and traffic. And so I want to quickly run through some of the proposed requirements. First, that the minimum number of acres required is 3 acres. So Mr. Nebaker has a 3.95, so almost 4-acre property, which means that he'll easily meet this. But this is to, I'm sure you completely understand already, but this is just to be able to limit this type of business onto a bigger property where more animals could be held, and hopefully you would think there'd be less neighbors around or less residential homes around, especially because of the second requirement, which is that it will not operate in view of a public road and it must be in the rear yard. So again, Mr. Nebuchadnezzar, he meets this, there's a site plan in your staff report. He would be putting all the animals in the back, and it would not be in sight of the public road. Again, this is to limit the impact that this type of business would have on a residential neighborhood, residential road. Third, keeping the sessions to appointment only. This, actually, Mr. Nebuchadnezzar brought this up himself, but we agree with it because we wouldn't want this type of use. If someone came in and they had the 3 acres, but they didn't have an appointment only, if it turned into some type of like zoo situation, keeping it to therapy sessions, which is what will be happening here by appointment only, is the goal of that requirement. Then the business hours will be between 9 to 5, the traditional business hours. Fifth, the parking. So the parking section was designed so that absolutely no parking for this business will be seen, will be on street, sorry. So during the business license application stuff, if another application comes in, of course, we've already received a site plan, but during the business license application for this type of business stuff will require a site plan and require, an exact location for where that parking area will be. Also, the business can have up to 6 motorized non-farm vehicles. That's taken from the existing home occupation code, where it says no more than 6 motorized non-farm vehicles shall be parked at the residence at any time. All right. Finally, the animal requirements are taken straight from Chapter 6, which covers animal regulations. Only permitted animals will be allowed as part of the business. Cannot have wild or exotic animals, cannot exceed the number of allowed animals. All animal enclosures must meet the regulations, and animals must not disturb any neighbors. I put together this table, probably already gone through it, showing that Gerald Nebuchadnezzar does meet all of these requirements. And it is one of the biggest selling points is that his property is unique enough to not hide, but kind of protect neighbors from any disturbance that may happen due to just the fact of having animals. These specific regulations, so they will allow squawks and bars to operate without disturbing neighbors, of course. In the event that it does unreasonably disturb a neighbor, there is Section 11J, this one right here, where it says home occupation owners must be good neighbors and mindful of possible impacts. Basically, if someone writes in and complains about a home occupation, they're subject to review by the Planning Commission. So then we would come before you and submit the complaint, and you guys would have the authority to research more or rescind the home occupation license. And with that, do you have any questions for me or Gerald?
Yeah, I have one question on the operating hours. What are operating hours for a standard home occupation business? And I guess, what's the purpose of limiting, thinking of a parent that, if I don't get home till 5 and I want to go have my child have therapy at 5:30 or 6 I'm just wondering, it seems quite restrictive, and why that would be different than other home occupations.
Yeah, so that's in there just because it's in the business description. This will be open year-round from 9 to 5 by appointment only, but
He's put that in there himself.
could change that.
But I guess I don't know, is that something you want restricted to that? Are you ever thinking of going? I mean,
that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Because maybe in the summer you could do it later when the
Yeah.
weather's nicer, but maybe after school. I was thinking, if this is for children, is it for children or adults or both?
It's for both.
Okay.
It would be for both. And I think that's a good point, that it probably ought to not have that 5 o'clock restriction.
Yeah, I would just suggest,
Yeah.
just have the normal home occupation time limits
Between
rule and not have
7:30.
specific for
Yeah,
this.
that's a great point.
So it just says home occupation shall not generate any traffic before 7:30 a.m. or after 6, so 7:30 to 6.
So that gives you a little bit more leeway to do things that way.
I got a question. Why does he even need an ordinance to do what he's wanting to do if he's
Right.
not putting too many animals on the property? Why does he need to be regulated? Is it just because he wants a business license, or?
So right now, our home occupation ordinance says that any home occupation must be carried entirely within a dwelling unit or an accessory structure. So it's really
It's
more for
because
like
it's
a
a
hair
business.
salon or something. Yeah,
It's
this
because
is
he's
a,
operating a business, okay,
Yeah.
because I mean, animal-wise, like,
yeah,
It's
you're
outside.
totally good to have animals.
Weird.
It's the business, if you want a
Okay.
business license and to, you know,
Could you explain a little bit more the nature of the business?
Sure. Yeah, it's actually patterned after a program called TRAX in Tucson that I visited recently. And all it does is provide opportunities for people with disabilities to interact with animals. And so they do equestrian therapy, they have chickens, they have goats, they have ducks, and some of these folks have never had the opportunity of holding a little chicken or petting a goat or anything. And what they found is that it's very therapeutic for some of the people with disabilities, especially some of those on the autism spectrum that may not be able to relate to they may be able to relate to an animal better than they can to a human. And so my property's unique, if you're familiar with my property, that it's just basically it's been a place where neighbors have had their horses, because I haven't done much with it. But after I went to Tucson and visited that program, I got inspired to do something differently. Cool. I thought, gosh, this could be a resource for the community. I don't plan to make any money on it, so in terms of a business, it would be a poor model in terms of that. But from an insurance standpoint, I need to go through those hoops. And so, but that is really the nature of it. And at some point, it would be also great to be able to employ somebody with disabilities to care for the animals that may not be able to get a job anyplace else. So that's what it's about.
Are most of your animals going to be housed in your big barn there?
No, see the picture there? They'll have their own little, that's not, after the guy from Tucson actually came up, we're going to configure it a little bit differently, but most important is that parking area. But they'll have their own little houses and places where the people with disabilities will actually go in the pens with them, with somebody at their side, and actually interact with the animals on the property.
When I hear the word therapy, I think about a credentialed person that's the staff or you. Is there any sort of credentials, licensing needed?
Not for this, not for this type of a program, but really it's just the ability to, I mean, what do you call it? I don't want to call it a petting zoo because it's not.
Yeah.
You know, but and there is a therapeutic value in the people interacting with the animals.
I think there's some value in having these people help to clean pens and feed them and things like that too, honestly. I do that almost every day, and it's kind of a therapy for me, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so it could extend to
Yeah.
the caring of an animal, you know, and I think there's some
It's
value.
a purposeful petting zoo. That's how I say it. Now, in Highland, they have Courage Reigns. Are you familiar with that? That is a horse therapy, and it's in Highland. It's very successful because, yeah, there's a lot of healing that comes with animals, and, you know, they're so unconditional in their, you know, love and such. But I think this is really commendable.
Well, thank you.
I like it.
Thank you.
I like the location for this. I can't think of too many other places in Lindon that would qualify for this with the 3-acre
Yeah, it's
minimum. So is there any other place in Lindon we wouldn't want this going on, I guess, but.
Well, I think just like our Wadley Farms, you want to you don't want to open it up to everybody who has 3 acres.
It's a niche thing, gang.
Yes.
It's not everyone's going to want to do something like this. I think it's kind of something special to have here in Lindon.
And I think unlike Wadley Farms, this isn't gonna be a money generator.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't think, you know, the reception business was big and hot because it was lots of, you know, trying to be a money generator. I think there's maybe a higher purpose for this than money generation.
So as far as with a home occupation business though, as far as standards as far as how the pens need to be kept and cleanliness and those kind of things, is there any kind of anything that kind of regulates that?
Yeah, that's all in Chapter 6, Animal Regulations.
Okay.
I should have put that in here. I can pull it up really quick. But they do have, like, the minimum size of an enclosure per animal, and they say that it cannot, there cannot be an unreasonable amount of flies or smell or something like that. And unreasonable is subjective, but we did put in there that they must be humanely treated, and that's also stated in our animal regulations.
I'm just thinking of the one situation we had down on the west side where,
Bulls.
with the cows and that, where the pens were not, where they were staying was not taken care of in a sanitary manner. And so that's the reason I asked that question. I'm not questioning whether you would or not. It's just if we're creating an ordinance, if that protection is there.
Well, the acreage is gonna allow that to all work fine.
Yeah, there's
5
not any
bulls on a half-acre patio in somebody's backyard, eating out of their living room's a whole other story.
True.
houses adjacent, really. You've got lots of space down there.
There's a hollow, yeah.
Yeah, there's a little hollow, I like it.
So it would be, you would be the only employee unless you hired someone maybe with disabilities to assist you.
Yeah, there would be a couple of part-time. That would be the goal, would be able to provide that, but we're not talking many people, because I'm not thinking about very many animals either. A handful of chickens, otherwise it can get overwhelming.
Wow, yeah, it would.
So we're just talking just a few, 3, 4, 5 of each variety, so.
Okay.
So the people who come there for the therapy, do they have a residence that they will stay in?
No, they're just
like
anybody.
for a 1 hour appointment.
Is it, they just make an appointment?
Just make an appointment and just to interact
Necessarily
with.
come up and live there.
It's not a sleepover.
No, we're not doing camping.
How
camping
do
out.
you advertise, how would you advertise it?
The network for, I'm a parent of a child with a disability, but that network is
Pretty tight.
Pretty
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah.
And so I think once word gets out, I can take my child and go hold a chicken, I don't think we'll lack for that. So again, where this is modeled after the program in Tucson, it's just amazing. They have people come, they have a lady that drives from California to Tucson every other month just for this program.
And I guess where it's appointments, you could limit how many people you wanted to come.
You can't have very
And
many at a time.
You can't have more than, 6
Nope.
cars?
Yep.
5 vehicles, I mean?
You have to have a tailored experience again, or it'll be overwhelming. And so the idea wouldn't be to have somebody come and have a bad experience. They need to have a good experience with the animals, and that can only be done by basically a one-on-one situation by appointment.
Sounds like purely therapeutic. It's not a.
Very intentional, yes, right. I like it.
Are there any other, are any of the other residents here? Are you here for this purpose? This is a public hearing. So, and if there isn't any more questions or public comment, then do I have a motion to close the public hearing and
So
we'll bring
moved.
it back up here?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Okay, is there any other discussion with the commission, or are we ready to make a motion on this?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. Yeah, or I would, but you go ahead, Rob,
Okay.
but I just want, hopefully we can make that one change is what I would recommend, to take the
Our constraints.
hour constraints out.
I move to recommend approval of ordinance amendment 22-15-0 as presented, with the change of the restriction of operating hours from 9 to 5, and change that to Just take that out. Okay, let's just take that out.
Take it out. I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
I hope it goes well
Good
for
luck.
you.
You too.
Thanks for bringing that to Lindon. I think that's really neat.
You ever heard of goat yoga?
Yoga?
It's a good real thing. Like you do yoga, goats crawl over you and stuff.
Oh, no.
What's going on out there?
Okay, the next item on our agenda, this is also a public hearing. So I do need a motion to open the public hearing.
Where are we at?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And this is item 8. It's an ordinance amendment, 17.76. It's planned residential development overlay. And our applicant is Lindon City. And sir, can you give your name?
Yeah, I'm Skylar Peterson, representing Elwood Holdings.
Okay, all right. And presenting staff is Michael Florence.
Okay, thanks,
And I'll let
commissioners.
you go ahead.
So we briefly just mentioned this last meeting 2 weeks ago that this would be coming before you. And so the city council 3 weeks ago or so held a concept meeting with Amy Johnson, and they discussed amending this ordinance to allow the low book sales to count towards the commercial use over there. And so what we've come up with, Brian and I worked on this. It says we added in red, in order to preserve the intent of the commercial zones, that was already in there. We added the following: the development shall have received or will receive site plan approval for at least one phase of the commercial development, and then it talks about the 25% requirement. So we kept that in there. And so just adding one line to that, this would allow them to then count the low book sales and then be able to proceed with the residential construction over there. And as the city council met with, and Skylar can talk about this more, met with a potential tenant that would take up, I think, most of the site, if not all of it. Skylar, maybe you can talk about what they want to do.
Yeah, so one of the prospects is looking at opening up a dental clinic on the side. So it would be in an assortment of dentists, so more of a medical facility, offices taking the remaining commercial space in the front there. So.
And wasn't there a dental hygiene school also?
That's correct. There
That
was
would
a
be part of
dental
it.
hygiene that would be part of that as well.
So,
Would be a large building with multiple uses, all dental, and
Yeah, that's correct.
it'd be a couple buildings, because that road splits down the middle of between the commercial, so,
so it'd be kind of a dental complex with two buildings.
yes. Now,
Would that kind of a business produce sales tax revenue?
no, probably not, but we would just be collecting the commercial
Okay.
property
All
tax.
right.
You'll notice also in the ordinance, I tried to explain it in the staff report, but the council hasn't adopted the planned residential development changes that you recommended months ago. Part of that, they continued it a few times. Part of it was myself also kind of dragging my feet a little bit on some questions they had. So those have been passed. I'm sorry, those items in red you've already recommended, and we're just adding this new section, and then the council will review it next week all together again.
So Mike, this is my biggest question about this whole thing. We've got this other thing that we've done too, and my general understanding is that we're going to change the ordinance, but then it doesn't apply to things we've already approved. And so I guess that's my biggest question is why would this one then, because the site plan and everything was under this ordinance. There's lots of different things we approve. Why would changing an ordinance be retroactive in this sense and not in, as I've understood it, it never has been in other senses?
Well, that's why we wrote it this way, that the development shall have received So, and Brian said that was just fine, that it could be past tense, that's how we write it, or will receive. And so that's why we purposely wrote that, so it could count that previous site plan approval for low book sales.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, right? Because, and that's fine, if Brian says that's legal and fine, I would just think they'd need to come back under this ordinance and apply.
I see what you're saying, because the person that affects it, it's affecting them in a positive way, but let's say we put something in an ordinance that affected somebody in a negative way, and then you're trying to retroactively apply that. Is that
Right.
kind of what you're?
Yeah, and we've talked about that it won't change what's happened in the past, it'll only change what happens in the future. And I just, more education on that.
And if someone's already received site plan approval, you can't retroactively go back and tell them to reapply to get approval again.
So that was my question there. And
Do you have any other information you'd like to provide to us?
As it relates to the project itself, right, it was one of those things that with the project, we tried to find the high-end, best end users for the project. We've had a number of groups approach us that we didn't feel would be a good synergy or good use for the city. I think moving forward, just trying to get all of our plans in place that with the residential in the back, with this commercial component coming up front, we're just trying to get all of our timelines and ducks in a row as it relates moving forward on the project. And that was the one consideration for the low book that was driving the rest of the project. It's something that we had planned, and as we move forward, things got delayed a little bit out from the commercial standpoint to get the rest of the project, but that was the one consideration of asking for it to be included. Just because over that period of time, it was just a development that took a little bit longer than planned, so.
I know I listened to the presentation from the dental group when they came to the city council, and they were quite confident that their development was going to actually happen. Is that still moving forward?
It is, yeah. We've had numerous discussions with them and laying out. They had one big commitment from one of the dentist providers over there, was a substantial one that would have moved this forward. So they did go ahead and get that from the big dental provider that would be coming in, so.
So at this point, there really isn't any information indicating that they won't proceed?
That's correct.
what's the timeline roughly on this dental building?
So closing of the land would happen within the next 2 months. So then you go through your planning permit and your building coming spring of next year at this point, so.
Mm-hmm.
So
So that, at this point, that's what you're basically planning on, is that closing
That's correct.
within the next couple of months?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll have any other discussion with commission.
is there any public?
Are any of you here for the purpose of this item? Okay.
I'll recommend we close the public hearing.
Okay. I have a
second that.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And we'll discuss it among the commission if there's additional comments.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern is, going through this was a very heated, long discussion with the residents. I wish there were residents here to tell us how they feel about this change, I don't know how much, I don't think it was because of the nature of the ordinance, it probably wasn't individually noticed, but I'm sure it was noticed on the website like it should be. I guess I struggle with the fact that was such a big part of the process that we went through, that, it needed to be the development and stuff. And so I wish I could have what the people who this development is gonna go around. I wish I could know how they feel about it, you know, a lot with the public and, 'cause there might be sentiment that, hey, we're just ready, we want this to go forward, or there might be sentiment that, no, we really want the commercial. I guess I don't know, what that sentiment is, so,
City council about that. They felt like, you know, they were all under the impression that Lowbrook counted. They, you know, when we told them, you know, this only applies for building permits, Lowbrook sales didn't need a building permit, they seemed surprised by that. They were under the impression that, hey, why didn't we just count the expansion of Lowbrook sales? And
But
so,
I think we asked that question quite clearly with this group, you know, of whether that counted
and that was vetted out very much, and it needed to be a new building and not, I mean, it was part of the discussion. It was definitely a very big part of the discussion when we talked about it.
It
And-
was.
And so that's just my, I guess, concern is that we're changing something here, just like the fence last time that we talked about with this development, right? Are we changing something for the developer without the residents letting us know? That's my concern, is that there's not input on both sides.
We did
That I've heard.
We did make that, or had that discussion a lot. I can't imagine why anybody would really care much.
Yeah, that's my point. It's on the commercial side of it. And so if the residents did see this on the agenda, they might have said, no, that's reasonable.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it makes sense not counting them.
Right.
Well, and my concern is that this is a good, clean, low impact use. I'd hate to delay the project and then
Right.
have them get something that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, those are my concerns, is I just wish there was more input there. Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of discussion on the commercial driving the residential rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and, you know, and I think the hope of the city at the time was to get something sales tax generating, but, you know, that's not, we didn't write that in the ordinance, it's not in the ordinance, so we can't hold anybody to that at this point.
The
But-
increase of a car lot, it's gonna bring you a lot of
Yeah,
sales tax.
yeah, I mean, that's actually a good sales tax generator there, so.
yeah, I mean, they're already in our top 12, I think, so.
Before
Before.
expansion, yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts? Are you willing to go ahead with this change in the ordinance?
I am.
I am.
Jared?
Well, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. If we recognize that the expansion of Lowbrook sales counts towards that 25%, then they're okay to proceed, right? So do we have to change the whole ordinance or can we just officially recognize that
We need to change the ordinance.
expansion counts?
Yeah, we have to change the ordinance because it says specifically they have to pull a building permit for 25% of the commercial and commence construction. So, and we didn't pull a building permit for Lowbrook sales, because there was no building for it.
So Steve, if you feel like the residents that are impacted, we don't have any of those residents here, would you want to continue that until they're
I would like
notified,
to,
or what would your?
yeah, I didn't
what
have
would your-
time personally to go talk to them and see, I would like
Know
to.
that they were noticed?
They weren't, we noticed on the state website and the city website, that's what.
But
and
they
and
weren't
then-
noticed about, you know.
And in the
a-
public buildings.
Because they don't have to be, you know, and I'm not saying the city made anything wrong there, it's just, I was hoping to be able to personally ask them, and I haven't, you know.
I didn't really think that part of the ordinance was put in there to protect the residents. It was more, as it's stated here, to preserve the intent of the general commercial zone. So it was more for the cities.
I agree.
To not have, you know, weeds growing up on commercial lots right on State Street.
And never get developed.
And never get developed into, you know, a commercial use, right, an end user. So to me, I don't think it was really that important to the residents.
We just.
But
wanna
you
make
are a
sure.
resident over there, so maybe you have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I think it's more the changing an ordinance afterwards, you know, that bugs me more than.
Yeah, I have some of that too.
That's, you know, me personally, that's what bugs me more than, I actually would like now that they're to the point they are, I think all of us there would rather have the development get going than, you know, be held.
I think I am open to feedback, though. Like, I think one of the reasons why we would want to review these conditional use permits for the massage therapy is perhaps to get feedback from those who are practicing massage therapy. Are our restrictions too onerous? Are they too burdensome? You know, are there some other things that we should be putting in there that we didn't think of? So I'm open to feedback on some of these ordinances. This is a new ordinance. I'm okay with that. But Steve, I'm with you. I have some heartburn about changing these in order to just for the simple fact to accommodate the pocketbook of the developer. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like.
Right. I mean, I guess that's why I'm saying, you know, they went in knowing that was the rule, just like the 7-foot fence or anything else. And that's me. You know,
Well, and the residential developer proceeded with that development and has poured a lot of money into that. No,
with the promise, with the idea that he had, you know, that was part
but
of the deal.
he took some risks there.
He did take
because-
risks, yep. So, you know, just, I think just, you know, and I kind of know the way the commission's going, and I don't, you know, I'm not trying to sway anybody, but I'll probably, like Mike did with the other one, probably be a no, just out of principle, because of the way changing the ordinance after the fact. That's how I feel.
I understand those feelings, and I know we need to make our own separate decisions, separate from the city council. But as I listen to the city council discuss this, and we do make a recommendation to them, I'm pretty sure they're gonna be in favor of going ahead. But that's. So are we ready for a motion? Or do you want to discuss it more? Do you want to continue it, or what do you want to do?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move to recommend to approve ordinance amendment 2022-5-0 as presented.
okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and
And
Steve,
I've,
just for the record.
Just
you
for the
want to-
record, I've explained, you know, just changing an ordinance after. It just is. I think it's a good thing going forward. Making it retroactive gives me some heartburn.
And the reason why we don't notice the residents is because we follow our noticing ordinance, you know.
Yeah,
And it's the same way, you know, we've amended a number of ordinances tonight, but we don't send out.
Well, and that should have been my question, put that way. Are we meeting our ordinance in terms
Yes.
of notice? Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
We send out mailed notices for things like conditional use permits, site plan approvals, and zone changes, subdivision approvals. But those are more your administrative type things. Your
Right.
legislative items,
Right.
sorry, I should say the zone change is also legislative. But for some reason, you know, state law has it that we don't have to send out mailed notices, and we've copied that same process.
And you'd probably have to send it to the whole city because this ordinance is
You would.
citywide. And so I understand why they weren't for this, because it wasn't specifically this property, but I guess that's what gives me heartburn, is it kind of is specifically for this property.
Hey, Mike, one question I would have, though, is this ordinance will go to the city council as a recommendation from us. Right. Will they also need to improve that part of the ordinance that they haven't approved yet?
Yes.
So that will also be on their agenda.
That's correct.
Probably first.
Well, it's all under the same ordinance. We're using the
So,
same
okay.
ordinance number.
So they can do it all in one fell swoop?
They can.
So that was my question, Mike, though. We made it more restrictive. But maybe Elwood's Holdings meets all those things. You know, we kind of use them as the But I guess why does, that's just where I don't understand. Why does the least restrictive stuff make sense to them, but the more restrictive stuff doesn't? Because of the date of the ordinance. That's just what I don't understand. I mean, if they pass an ordinance.
We renoticed everything again. And so, you know, we renoticed it to, so that people had a chance to still comment on this item. And so they've had two opportunities to give public feedback. Once months ago with you guys in the city council, and then again on this new section. So we keep noticing it, just, you know, in case anybody wants to add feedback to it.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm really struggling with this, Mike, so I'm not trying to, but like I said, just if we're gonna change all these things in the ordinance, right, and we said that there had to be I can't remember all the things we changed, right? Are they now, I mean, obviously, they wouldn't be held to the higher standard, or Souther wouldn't be held to the higher standard on his development for the things that became more restrictive. I just really struggle with seeing why part of the ordinance applies, that we just passed, will apply to them, but the other part won't.
Well, it's how we wrote it right here.
Okay. And Brian will have to probably explain that to me.
We wrote a past tense section right
You
here.
could ask him, those are legitimate concerns.
So.
I think that would be
Yeah,
fine
so,
for you to
yeah,
ask.
just so I can, just even going forward as we grapple with this issue, so that we understand that.
Maybe at our next meeting, Brian could kind of explain that to us also. Okay, just for our education.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, because we wrote it a past tense section. I mean, I don't know how more clear, that's the way he explained it to me, and that's the way I'm explaining it to you.
Okay. Okay. All right, well, thank you for
Thank you,
being
guys.
here with us.
Thank you.
Okay, the next, Renee, you want to know if we'd be through by 8? And look, we just about did it. Planning Commission reports, is there anything any of you would like to bring up? Mike, I was just going to tell you that address on those cars is right on 200 East and 400 North.
Okay, thank you.
You know, you always have concerns when you hear a citizen say they were promised things that never happened. I don't know what those were. You know, I've been trying to recall that.
Regarding Gilman Lane?
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is I think the business may have made some promises, like, oh, we have enough parking, or, oh, our noise won't be too loud, our DJ will, you know, will meet this decibel requirements.
I think they said something like, yeah, we'll have someone out there directing traffic and making sure
Yes.
that, I mean, I think those types of things, I remember.
Wasn't necessarily things that the planning commission or the city promised.
Right.
I think the only thing the city promised is, because, I mean, the property was already zoned. Our hands were tied, you know, which was unfortunate, but was that the city would make sure signs got put up, which the city did, for no parking.
We've had them put
Yeah.
A-frame signs at the cul-de-sacs.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to, the signs, they seem to be being ignored, but at city did
You
what
own
they.
a piece of property, you ought to open up a parking lot and charge.
I know I should, because they use my driveway about 60 times a night to turn around. They come down.
They do it at the BYU football games, you might as well make
We sit
some.
out there on our chairs out front and go, okay, how many bets, how much money, this car's gonna turn around the driveway. They drive right past the wild oak, come to ours, clear down the road, and turn around, and then go back to look for it again. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have people drive up my driveway to go to Wadley Farms all the
Your
time.
promises that you're talking about, they were mostly all, well, they were from the business owner, stating that they would not have outdoor music, and they do.
Yeah.
Wildly every night.
Okay.
Well, can we review their permit for
There are complaints on
that?
that, though.
It's a permitted use.
It's a
And
permitted
so all
use,
they
it's not a
came before you
conditional, yeah.
was for site plan approval.
Right.
Why our city code ever allowed a reception center in a commercial general storage zone, I don't know. We should have only allowed storage.
Right.
But, so I don't know why we allowed that, but.
But we have made a lot of changes on the reception center as far as how close it can be to residential and
Parking.
additional parking that is required. And moving forward, we've tried to make a lot of changes to protect the residents.
And I
So-
personally have not had as many complaints in the last year. Officer Welker and I went over to the Wild Oak. We put a process in place for decibel levels. We found out their decibel meter was reading 10 units less than the police department's. And so,
Did some calibration there.
we did some calibration. We put a process in place with a contact with the police department and Wild Oak. So I have not heard as many complaints from the police department and coming into my office this summer.
I mean, it's a nice facility, and I remember when they were building it, and we're just like, I hope they can make it work, and they did. So I do commend them for being successful business owners, you know, and they're probably trying to be somewhat, you know, they're not helpful. Do you ever talk to them?
No, I've had the man scream and yell at us. I've seen him get in front of police officers' face, screaming and welling right this close to their face.
Is he the owner?
The owner.
Well,
He
that's
will not
disappointing.
listen. I've invited him to come to our home
Mm-hmm.
because as you come down Gilman Lane, you all of a sudden have open space, right? Sound carries. And that's what we were trying to explain to him, because he's like, there is no way this is a problem. And I said, come to my home, please, I invite you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Walk to our home and stand here and hear what we're hearing. And Officer Simmons, 3 or 4 of the officers are very sympathetic and been wonderful, because they come and they say, I can't believe this. And the further down the road you go, the louder it becomes.
Yeah, it can happen.
And so I've invited him, just come down here and let's work it out. Let's come down and let's turn your music on, have someone up there, and let's go to the thing on the level of your DJ, you know, your sound system. And then when it gets to the point where it's unbearable at our home, literally inside with the jazz game going and all of our windows closed, and you can hear it over the jazz game, then you'll know, hey, don't turn it up any louder than this. But part of the problem is all their sound system faces away from their building. If they would put it on the west side, aim it at their building so it has a different direction and something to block it, but they will not listen to anything. I mean, they are as rude as can be. They'll stand out there and they'll point at us and shake their fingers at. They're very ignorant and they don't care.
I have firsthand, my son's a DJ, and he did DJ down there, and I said, how did it go? He goes, they kept telling me to turn it down.
It's terrible.
At least someone who was monitoring, I can attest to that, but yeah, maybe it depends on who's in charge that night.
Yeah, and the first year, they used to keep someone out there on the road. It wasn't really to direct traffic. She would tell him to come down.
Turn
to our
around.
home, because see, the signs only go down so far for no parking. And then they didn't, we asked our brother, which my brother is David, Officer Welker. I said, why aren't the signs coming down the road the rest of the way? And he goes, they didn't buy enough, so this is as far as they got with them. And
Well,
they
that's
wait till that, and
not
then
true.
they just fill up all the parking, and they'll tell them, just go down the road and park. And the ordinance states they cannot use residential streets for business parking, and yet they do it anyway.
The reason why the signs only go so far is because then you enter a part where there's curb and gutter. And it meets the road width there. So the city engineer determined that the signs only needed to go down to where there was no curb and gutter.
Where it
but
was
when
narrow.
Yes, and then where the curb and gutter started, he didn't require the no parking
Signage.
signs there.
Well, I think this is something that needs to be worked with, you know, with the police department, with planning, with city council. We know there's a big problem. I don't know that planning commission can do anything on that as far as we're concerned, other than being a listening ear.
Do you have space where you could tell the owners, hey, you know, on your big nights, rent our lot here and let people park? I mean, is that interesting at all to you? Would that help?
Hey, that would be great, other than I would have loved to have used it my own self, all the acreage for parking lot for my own reception center. But anyway, but we were told no, and it could of the misery they create for us every night, I guess that would be great.
Okay, well, and
I don't know, is that allowed? Is parking allowed? Would that be something that would happen? But there
Not
again,
in a
they're walking
residential
up
zone.
the street and there's nowhere for them to walk. And it's just a real public nuisance having them use that road as a sidewalk all night long. I mean, I have it on film, there'll be 7, 8 people, because they come down and park in that area, and then at the church, it's the same problem at the church, which is very troublesome, because you come off of State Street, make that turn, and boom, you're just hit with 20 people in the middle of the road. They don't walk on the side of the road, they walk in the middle of the road.
Okay.
And there will be 5 cars in line behind those people, and they do not move. It's like they are entitled, this is their
Well,
private walkway.
we know there's some problems. I know the city is trying to do what they can on it, and appreciate your being here at our meetings.
I hate sounding like a griping, ornery old gray-haired witch lady, but it's just, if you lived there, you would see what such a problem it is. It's to the point where it causes contention in your heart, and who wants to sit there and live every night with the contention that you knew would happen? And it happens every night, and it's gonna be that way for the rest of our lives and those surrounding us. But your reports have gone down. This is the one point I wanted to make. Because everybody looks to Clark and I, because we're the ones, he's the one that will go right in as soon as the level becomes unbearable and call. And the neighbors call us and say, hey, you gonna call? Did you call? And I'm like, don't come to me. You call yourself, because it's just like the officer said. Well, why isn't nobody else? Well, because they're all calling us saying, hey, did you call? And so I've tried to tell them, but a lot of people don't like doing that, because then they get, well, like us, we've been blackballed. They see our car come down the road, those people, and they know, oh, there's those people call on us, and they point their fingers at you. They're not very nice. I'm in the wedding business, and I have a catering and business for 35 years, and wedding cakes and wedding decor. I would have given my right arm to supply them with their product and take stuff there, but there's no way with the contention they have that I could ever go on their property to deliver my goods, which is only 3 doors up the road from me. So that's how bad it is.
And that's unfortunate. Everybody's an adult. Can we just all act like adults and have conversations and solve
I would love
it?
to be supplying them with product 4 nights a week. I wouldn't have to go anywhere else. I'd have to drive a block, but I can't do that. So it's really sad.
I've tasted some of your wedding cakes and that, and they are very good.
They go everywhere else. I just wish they would go up the road, but.
Well, thank you for your comments on
Well,
that, though.
thank you for letting
And-
us. I didn't join in other than I got asked a question, so I'm glad that you let me write.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mike, the planning director reports.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Do you have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. I just have a question. Was it next meeting that we've got, our training by Brian? This is the next?
On the 25th.
Yes.
Okay.
And does that count as any of our training, or do we
It
still?
will, yes.
Yes, it does.
So, did y'all get that email I sent?
I haven't read it yet, so sorry. I'll
Okay.
read
And
it.
you had a link to some additional, and I responded,
Yep, you
Okay.
watched 2 videos
yes,
today.
watch videos.
So just to clarify, then I'll just need to do 2 non-specific training, 2 hours of non-specific
Yes.
training.
That's correct.
think
And
that
one of those
brings-
needs to be the powers and duties.
There's one that's required.
Okay, that's not what Brian's gonna do.
No, he's gonna do an open and public meetings.
Perfect, okay. Just so I get my marching
Okay.
orders right.
Everybody else clear on that?
And like, you guys supplied me real estate classes last year,
But
just
we do still need to attend
just the
Brian.
powers and duties.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm excusing myself, we're not closing this down.
No, we
We
are.
are.
We are right now.
Okay.
I move that we close and get Renee out of here.
Do I have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.